So right now I wanted to touch on a topic that's kind of fun and interesting to me, and that is, what are my favorite gold prospecting tools? What do I like to use and why? Again, going back to our theme of why. Well, my favorite all-time tool for prospecting, of course, is a good old gold pan. Let me pull this thing out here. So when you have a pan, you can use it to do all kinds of stuff, but primarily you use it to find gold when you're actually out prospecting and looking for unique places that might have some gold. The other thing you can use it for is finishing, which is what you do when you're done with a major amount of black sands and gold concentrates. You'll use a pan to finish it out. You see this all the time on Gold Rush, but that's really the best tool because it's a very simple gravity sluice. Ideally, I like these ones that have, like this one is a super pan by Keen. But, the idea is it has a series of ridges on one edge to catch the coarser gold and rocks and hold them in there so they don't rock on out as you're doing your shaving process. But I like that as well as having a kind of rough area. If it doesn't have a rough area, you can certainly make one with some 60 grit or 80 grit sandpaper and just kind of rough up these plastic pans. You always want to scrub out all the junk with some soap and some steel wool or a copper wool brush and just rough up the edges before you use it, because the oil in it will actually take fine gold and float it right downstream. It'll stick to the gold and then make the gold lighter than the water because of its thinness. Just light enough to make it float up and out of your bowl, and away it goes. You won't catch any fine gold, so don't do that. The other thing I like about these ones is they have a fine ridge down at the bottom here that catches the gold when you're working with fines and black sands, and it kind of holds it in there so you can kind of work them simple in a very simple shaving motion. But you don't have, I typically go to that as quickly as possible, because really a lot of the rocks and stuff, the little pebbles and things you're catching, aren't going to hold any gold. Now you can look and inspect as you go to see if you have a nugget in there, but once you don't, you need to peel those pebbles and rocks out, because they will tend to kick out the finer specks of gold and the small nuggets. This rock, for example, would just kick out anything smaller than it, and any gold that's about half this size, which is a pretty big piece of gold, would just get kicked out like a cue ball. So that's a tool I like to use a lot. Another favorite of mine is a 1/4 inch sieve. I like to use a sifted input into my gold pan when I'm processing, because it makes things go faster, especially if in an area where there's a wide variety of rocks and pebbles mixed in with a finer concentration of gold, anything 1/4 or less. And so you may as well sift that stuff out, again, pull it to the side, dump it out as quickly as you can. And once you dump those things out, you can take a metal detector to anything like that comes out at 1/4 inch or larger, and it'll show up on a detector like squawk. So you just take a small handheld detector and go over it, and if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. That is a tool I like to use a lot, because it will make your gold panning go faster and more efficient, more effective. And of course, my third most favorite tool of all, not just for gold prospecting, but for geology and prospecting in general, is a good old-fashioned Twing rock pick. You can pick up these at a metal detecting or a prospecting store. You can pick them up at geology or rock lapidary kind of store, or you can get them online. But Twing makes the strongest one. This one's quite old, but it's been in the family for a long time. Heirloom stuff. I typically paint mine. You notice the stripes here? They're particular iridescent colors, and the reason I do that is I take this thing with me when I dredge, and if it goes to the bottom, I can easily spot it. But it also helps me identify my tools from the next guy over if you use a unique pattern of colors. So it's worth doing that. Total cost, run around with a spray can for a day and you're done. Actually 2 spray cans in this case. So that's a tip that I give you just because it's something I like to have. There's those 3 tools. I can go out and prospect all day long, and total cost there's 25. Well, this one probably not so 25. This is probably 25 or 30 bucks itself, but 50 bucks will buy you all those tools. You can get a pan, 12 bucks for a good one. So you might think about what it takes to get going, and the answer is gold pan and a little trowel, garden trowel. That I didn't have here, but that would help. I can use the gold pan in my rock pick and just scoop into the thing with the rock pick, just take it and drag it across the surface and move the things into the pan, and away we go. But that's something you just kind of get the hang of doing. And one of the things that I will give you a caution on anytime you prospect, if you're really just doing, you know, small site survey stuff, pack it light. Go light and move fast. Get as much done as you can. So that means a shovel, a small shovel, a spade, a bucket, this equipment I just showed you, and that's all you need. You can move through a canyon, you can climb up and down rocks and so forth, especially if you have a little light day pack that you can carry this stuff or attach it to. You're good to go, and you have your lunch to boot. So that's another tip from Prospector Jess. Catch you again tomorrow. I hope you're having a good time prospecting. This is a great time. And this weather is going to bring a bunch of gold down. So get ready. We're going. So, good night and good prospecting. Prospector Jess over and out, huntingforgold.com. Come visit us.